All right. It is finally rest day, and the competitors have made it. And actually, it's getting close to the tail end of rest day for these guys. 4:27 p.m. in Saudi at the moment, and it has been a ride so far. And in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about that ride and what it represents to some people. And it has been a very interesting thing to follow. And I'm really trying to put my thoughts together on this because it's kind of one of those things, the bucket list item of the Dakar, the space on the line that the Dakar occupies in a lot of people's dreams, whether it be go race it, watch it in person. I don't know, my personal be part of the organization, that kind of thing. There's so much riding on this race, and it's not just about getting a trophy. It's not just about getting a medal, other than the finisher's medal. And so for a lot of people, it's a lot of different stories. And if you guys have been following along, we have been doing this series in conjunction with Willem Avenant, who has been doing this thing called Decoding Dakar. And Willem's mission with that was basically demystifying or decoding the whole process of getting into the Dakar Rally. Well, the process of getting into the Dakar Rally is done. And now it's the process of, I don't know, maybe do we dare go with a pun and say it's encoding the Dakar and actually putting together racing, surviving, and then just everything associated in between with that. It is really turned into the adventure of a lifetime, obviously. I mean, he knew that going in, and us watching from, 8,000 miles away over here on the West Coast, knew the journey, and a lot of his friends, close family from around the world, and organizers, the whole team over at Baja Rally, who he works closely with, and especially in this year's preparation for the Dakar, being a part of the Baja Rally, helping improve the stages and helping design that, working together with the organization hand in hand. It has been an absolute journey. And so there are many things that could be covered. We are going to talk about this at the end with him. We'll probably get some videos. I'm going to invite him into the studio so he can share his story. This was a couple of years ago that we actually had a chance to sit down and chat with Mo Hart, who was one of the American Rally Originals team. And they raced in the Malimoto category. So we'll talk a little bit about the Malimoto category here in a little bit. But when talking to Mo, he had a whole nother perspective of the Dakar that we don't know, the Dakar that we see as spectators from afar usually involve the top 10. But what happens with the bottom 50, with the bottom 100, I mean, there's hundreds of bikes, you never really hear that story, and it's tougher for that story to get out. Everybody's watching the top guys, everybody's watching the factory riders in Rally GP, everybody's checking that stuff out, and there's only a few people that cult following actually stick to and find out a little bit about the stories. And so Willem, in an interview in passing when he was arriving to the finish line, just kind of mentioned a couple of things, and I can share that video here in just a second so you guys can listen along. But the Dakar that he has raced is not the Dakar that we know. It is slow, it is grueling, it is rough, it is long, it is insane how many hours, going through this and just seeing what he has been up to, even just to get through stage 5, right? We know that on the 48-hour chrono stage, he stayed out in the desert, so the race clock didn't stop. So that just added hours to it on his stage time. But you're looking at a 77-hour stage time already. That's 77 hours, and so we'll go with 8 hours of that. We'll put 7 hours just to make the math easy. You're still talking about 70 hours of riding. You know, there is a 4-hour penalty in there. So, okay, 66 hours of riding. I mean, that is absolutely unfathomable. And it is a different race for him. So let's cut to the interview. I want you to see this quick interview with him about the Dakar and him coming across the line. This was something that Gary, in passing, Gary Goodwin from Cove Moto USA, was able to capture this. And this was something that him and Willem worked together. Willem's practice bike and getting ready for the Dakar was supported by Cove Moto USA and Cove in this to help him get there. I mean, it takes the village to get people to the Dakar sometimes, you know. And everybody that you've talked to, if you guys are familiar with Skylar House's story, he had this similar story, you know, had to go bootstrap it, sell everything, you know, in his possession, you know, really just lay everything out on the line. And he is now one of the riders for Honda HRC, Monster Energy Honda. I mean, that's dedication. Obviously, that's discipline, and there's a lot of stuff. But anyway, check out this interview with Willem as he's coming across the line, finishing up the stage, and just recapping a little bit about the stage.
How are you doing, man?
It's too hard. It's fragile.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Wonderful day.
Oh,
How are you?
I'm doing all right. You've had some long days, but you're still doing it. You're still in it.
I mean, I don't want to complain, but if you're in the back, I mean, all you do is ride in ruts, in the dust, all day long at 30 k's an hour, and you're just fighting. It's like doing a Baja 1000 every day.
Yeah.
Every freaking day.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you get some sleep last night?
Yeah, I got some sleep. Not great sleep, but I got some.
Well, good job, dude.
Thank you.
Okay, so just him saying the pace, 30 kilometers an hour, just riding at 30 kilometers an hour and getting to the finish lines and just having to ride in this rough terrain that's been beat up, I mean, you've got hundreds of vehicles going through there, tons of different sections. In another video he shared, it's on the socials, it's on Instagram, you know, it's 10 o'clock at night and they're still out there trying to make it back to the bivouac. So if you want to talk like not getting any rest on a rest day, the rest day is not long enough to make that up. You know, you could see in this interview here, we'll show in just a minute, where he is giving us an update on his rally for stages 4 and 5. And you can see that he's physically tired, but at the end of the day, he's not, you know, his spirits are good. The bike is good. They're doing, you know, he's doing what needs to be done. So it's absolutely awesome to see that and keeping that mentality, because I mean, this thing at some point it crosses over from physical, you know, the second wind, the mitigation of energy and riding efficiently and doing all of these things, you know, at some point kind of becomes automatic. But one of the fastest killers of this is brain, is mentality, you know, in my opinion. You know, yeah, you could physically hurt yourself to an end point where you can't ride the bike anymore, but then also quicker than that is your mentality and how you feel about it. So I don't want to make this a very serious video, but I just I've been reflecting on kind of his journey and following along in the group of supporters that he has, and it's just seeing the progress and seeing what he's done. And it has just been, I'm in awe, and I'm absolutely supportive of it and absolutely here for it. So anyway, let's check out the stage 4-5 update from Willem. And so you guys can see a little bit about what he's gone through what his days have been.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm coming to you from a Bedouin tent at the race day. I'm going to try and recap quickly the last 2 days, stage 4 and 5, as best as I can. I'm sure I'm going to forget some stuff, but so stage 4, that was the first section of the marathon stage. Started, had a fairly good day, but then after the refuel, the sun set, and to drive at night in the Dakar is almost impossible because of the terrain and the trucks and the fact that you can't navigate, except if you just ride exactly on the roadbook. So I calculated, I got to the refuel at sundown, and I had calculated that to finish the marathon stage I'm going to finish like at 11, which I was pretty bang on. I finished at 11:30. What I didn't calculate in that calculation was the fact that I might get lost, which did happen. And then I saw a buggy. I thought I'll follow the buggy. I knew this, but when you're tired you don't really think about that much. But they had no idea where they were. Me knowing, I very quickly figured out they had no idea where they were. I then realized that, okay, this could possibly cost me my Dakar, because how am I going to get back on track? It's too dangerous to go back. The terrain we were in was a small wash or a wadi, very sandy, very rutted out, so I could go back, but it would be extremely dangerous and extremely difficult. So then eventually I found 2 Bedouins in a Land Rover, or Land Cruiser, and I begged them, I absolutely begged them to take me I was like, do you guys know where the course is? Nobody here speaks English. I was like, please try, did you see trucks? Did you see the course? And they're like, yes. And then I asked them, I convinced them to take me to the course. After about, I don't know how long it is, but we drove for a long time, and then the car turned around. The car's like, this guy's not taking us there. I started getting stressed because I could see on the cap heading that I'm heading completely in the wrong direction, and then in the middle of the desert, this dude just stopped and he's like, I'm done, I'm not going to ride any further. And I'm like, I have to find the track, like, you have to show me the track. And he's like, just no, I'm not driving any further. He took me to a two track road, and he's like, just follow this road. Again, without speaking English, this was all sign language. I then was like, okay, look, either the Dakar is done or I follow this road and maybe it intersects the course. As it happens, it did intersect the course, and I I found Dennis Middelberger, I think, the German dude, and we rode together. And it was so crazy. I'll add some videos about how crazy that night was. But I got in at 11:30, ate something, went to bed, and got up the next day for stage 5, which was yesterday. Yesterday's stage was incredible riding. It started out very fast. I ran out of steam halfway through, because to ride that fast, that sustained for that long, when you're already at the start, is really difficult and really dangerous. And then we got into some rocks. So the result was that my speed dropped quite a lot, and I finished again at night. Luckily not too late, but again in the dark. It was really hard. I cannot understate how hard it is to ride in Dakar at night. The people, the back 50 people, and for me even more so because I'm that far back, has a completely different race, and I'll make a different video about it. But the long and the short of it is you ride in unrideable terrain, and at night you have to go to the center of the waypoint, and that's where it's absolutely at the worst. During the day you can cut corners because you can see, but at night you have to navigate, otherwise you get off course. So if you get off course at night, you're done. So you have to basically go through the absolute worst of it, get to the middle of the waypoint, and then move on to the next one. So that's what makes it really hard. But I got home, I got in last night, my dad was at the finish. That was really good to see him. and I just basically went to bed, and now I'm going to go back to bed again. But update, stage 5 yesterday also went well. Mentally I'm feeling good, physically I'm feeling good except for my hands, so everything is good. So thank you for all the support. I really appreciate it. There's a ton of other stories, I can't remember them all now, but it's all been crazy days. Thank you so much, guys, and hopefully I'll be able to give you a more concise feedback from stage 6.
All right. So having to navigate at night in the desert, and something very important that he mentions is that with the waypoints and in the mornings and in the daylight, whatever it may be, when you're navigating to, say, a corner and it's a directional change and there's no waypoint there, and you can see dust in front of you, and then you can see where that dust crosses over to your left, to your right. You know, you can see that there's going to be a change in direction. You can see in your road book, you've looked ahead, there is no waypoint there. You can then cut ground. Well, at night, it's near impossible to see any kind of dust. Depending on maybe the mood light, you might get lucky. Maybe a headlight, you might get lucky. You may not see a canyon in between you and then. There's a lot of stuff. So you have to go to the center of the waypoint. You know, the center of the waypoint being, here's the waypoint. There's a radius to it. You have to make it all the way to the middle. You can't skirt around the edge, capture the waypoint, and then go. You have to be on point with your navigation. It makes it much more difficult, infinitely more difficult. And put on that you've been riding for so many hours, that you're feeling tired, that you're physically done, but you still got to make it happen. And so that to me is like I said, his Dakar Rally is different than everybody else's, and he's not alone in that group. So I think that is a very important thing to note, you know, what he is up to. But he's had a tribe, he's had a whole group of people help him get to this point where he is mentally, physically ready to go. I remember working with him at Baja Rally. He would disappear every day, go get his workout in, make his thing happen, you know, and then, you know, come back to it and jump right back in. And we're working together, you know, managing the event as a tracking and working as a team. And so to see that happen and that dedication, and then, you know, riding with Colton Udall, you know, a visit out to the Champ Ranch and learning some things, learning some ways to ride efficiently. Colton Udall, no stranger to riding at a very fast pace for a very long distance of time, trying to share the knowledge that he has to help Willem on this kind of an adventure. And you can see it, and I hadn't told him this, but you can see that in the videos that I've seen of him going through. Body position is different. He seems more comfortable on the bike than what I saw before. So it's really, really awesome. And Willem has been riding for years. This isn't has been riding for 6 months kind of thing. You know, he spent time with Mike Johnson of Rally Comp out in Texas, riding out there, and not even doing road books, but just riding and just focusing on riding efficiently and making his riding much more clean. You cannot, the Dakar is way too long to be able to say, okay, yeah, we're just gonna wing it and we're gonna get lucky, and poor form will not hold that. You know, you look at people like, and I always admired racers that can ride really, really long distances, because you could get lucky for so long. And like Jose R. Carrasco told a class once that I was a part of, he said, you know, you can get lucky, you can ride with bad habits and get lucky and just continue on that way. People will give you advice, and that advice may not be the best, but they've learned to ride in a quote unquote improper way, and or not as effective way, but it's always worked for them, so they don't know any better. And it doesn't come from a bad place when they're trying to give you that education, that tip, that, you know, that coaching. It doesn't come from a bad place, but it doesn't necessarily make it right. And when you talk to people that have raced in classes like in Baja, like the Ironman class, where, you know, every mile is their mile, you know, what's your section of the race course, when they ask and they don't know what an Ironman racer is, they, you know, with this probably dumb look on their face, I go, all of it. So, but what I'm getting at is you have riders like that. You have, you know, Colton didn't do Ironman, but was always part of a team and always had long stints on the bikes. Very, you know, it was less of a time when he didn't have the longer stints. And then from there, you look at people like Edgar Cota. Edgar Cota teamed up with SoCal Off-Road School as a coach. And what's interesting about that is that he is also an Ironman rider. So he races and competes, won the Baja 1000 by a few hours, not this past year, but the year before, and on the Peninsula Run. And jokingly, I said, you know, I'm going to try and find a picture of you in poor form, riding on the arch of your feet, you know, just slouched out, you know, something. And I never saw one, you know, so it becomes second nature to it. And where this whole conversation is going is really just in all sides of things, right? In all of the sides of competing, racing on a bike, even in a car, the seating position and all of this, everything just has to be the way it needs to be. Obviously, the bike riders have no choice. You're going to have to stand up. You're not just sitting there the whole time and making sure your seatbelts are tight. You know, the bike will throw you at its will, and the terrain will decide that, and your form will decide whether the ride is really bad or you were able to manage it. These are still heavy bikes. They still are going to hold, you know, 8 gallons or close to 8 gallons of gas. That is a lot of weight. You know, you think about a desert tank that you would use on a typical enduro bike when you go race Baja, it might be 3 to 4 gallons. Well, now you're going to double that weight. Luckily, it's designed properly. The weight's down low, that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, the bike is still heavier. It's got the suspension. It's wider. Yeah, the suspension's great and all that stuff. The bigger diameter forks. It's designed to take those hits, but the bike is still going to weigh what it weighs. Yeah, at speed, it's stable. But when you're in the silt, when you're in the sand, when you're in the dunes, and you're having to manipulate the bike and don't have any speed to speak of to be able to hide or mask that weight, you don't have momentum, that bike is still 400 pounds, you know, it's still super heavy, and you have to be ready for that. And like I said, if your form isn't correct, you know, at the beginning of the day, it's not about at the beginning of the day. At the beginning of the day, you could have poor form all you want. What's going to happen is what happens after 3 o'clock. What happens at 8 o'clock at night when it's dark and you're done for the day? You expended all your energy just to get to 8 o'clock at night. But had you been riding more efficiently, you would have been fresher at 8 o'clock. There's a lot of mentality stuff that has to go through that. And I think that the riding, especially with tricky navigation, your riding has to be something you forget. Your riding has to be something that you just do it because you do it. You know, you're not thinking about, are my feet in the right place? Are my arms in the right place? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? So it can be very complex. But I think that in something like this, in Willem's case, and what he is doing and what he has done to prepare, that story is huge, and it's gold. I will drop the knowledge of anytime it gets around Dakar, if you look at Google Trends, the number one search when it comes to Dakar is how to enter the Dakar. How do I race the Dakar? And there's a lot to it, you know. And we've got a video that I've been working on this, and specifically, it's like, well, what about the Dakar? What about having the Dakar, you know, quote unquote the Dakar, you know, a cross country rally in North America? You know, well, the spoiler alert is that there's already at least 2 of them that have been going on. That have almost 2 decades between both of them, that they've been here in the States, you know, or here in North America, I should say. Not in the States, they're in Mexico. In North America, and specifically the United States, it's hard to find enough room to really send these guys out on a long day. But nevertheless, you have these events, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But I don't want to go too long on this episode. I mean, we're already at about 18 minutes. I think we've discussed it. I wanted to provide at least a little bit of an update on Willem. You know, I'm looking forward to him getting back, getting rested, and then we'll figure out how we coerce him to get here into the studio and record his story. I mean, I think this is going to be huge. And you guys, if you don't know who Willem is, I'm going to drop the link so you can follow him along down in the description. Again, he has put together so much. He is such an ambassador of the sport that I think that his story needs to be out there, and you know, the questions need to be asked how he did it. So with that being said, guys, we're going to sign off on this one. I hope everybody is doing well. If you're in California in 2025, I don't know when you're going to be watching this video, in the LA area, I hope you stay safe. They're experiencing a very, very large wildfire. This one will definitely be in the history books. Unfortunately, it is really in the middle of town. So I hope everybody is staying safe. If you guys are watching this now, please be safe. You know, don't put yourself at risk. And please, everybody stay safe. Remember, it'll make sense when you get there. Enjoy the ride.